the extreme rightists, the extreme leftists. They don't have the confidence and the vision to really develop a understanding of each other. So I'll have to find a new path. I'm afraid it could be so hard in the near future.
In 1960s, 70s, until 80s, public intellectuals play a very important role in understanding other countries. Now it become more marginal. There is a deeper problem. I mean, comparing with the older generation, people think not curious about different behavior, mentality of others, civilization. We are very self-centered. From your perspective, how to deal with?
I don't know the answer. I wish I knew. I think it has to do with the new connection between communication and so forth. But what will be the basis of healthy relations? It's true. I mean, in the last 20 years, the world became chaotic. And out of the chaos, the people went off in different directions, so I don't know that answer. But I think what I can do, and maybe have some impact, I hope, is how to deal with China. And there's some things Americans may not like about what's going on in China, but you have to be realistic. After all, China is going to be strong, and there are a lot of good Chinese people you can work with.
If John King Fairbank alive, what would he do?
In a way, he did not have such a broad goal as I do. He wanted to have better relations with China, but his vision was more in terms of the field of Chinese studies. I would say one of the fundamental differences with Fairbank and me is he was elitist. He was from higher class than I, and more. He went to Oxford and Rhodes Scholar and so forth. And I was more a 普通人. My father was a small Jewish merchant, and I worked in the store. And my father had very good attitude of trying to get along with everybody and to become very familiar and very friendly. It was a town of about 10,000, and the small college, Ohio Wesleyan, which is a Methodist town, maybe partly because it was a religious town. There were many Christians there, although I was Jewish. It gave me a sense that I want to be friends with everyone. And also it was World War II. So we had friends who went to the war. We knew people who died during the war. My generation after the war, we really wanted to have world peace. And in some ways I feel I'm so lucky. I grew up in such a small town in America. I was given the opportunity to experience so many historical changes. And that to me means so much responsibility. Not because I thought that was so important, but because I thought the relations were so bad and I really want to make, that's the honest way. I really want those people to get along because there's so many good people in both countries. And there ought to be a better way, and I knew a lot of people. I want them to get along. So maybe I'm immodest. Maybe I'm not correct. But I think I have a contribution to make.
So, do you think, there was a golden age between China and the United States, but now we have so many different complexes between each other. So, the transition, how the transition happened is...
Of course, every country like China and the United States is big and we have many different people. The extreme rightists, the extreme leftists. They don't have the confidence and the vision to really develop a understanding of each other. So I'll have to find a new path. I'm afraid it could be so hard in the near future. But, well, it's also, I think of the missionaries. I'll give you one example. I knew a Guangdong guy named Yang Mai.
The exchange with people whose experiences are different from one's own is very illuminating. There are other ways to think. And I think that right now, that kind of attitude in this country is so necessary. Right now in the US, we are so divided that we cannot come to the middle. I mean, Ezra wrote China and Japan Facing History. Somebody needs to write the book now. America, right and left, facing history. Maybe I'll write that. No. But no, it's people are so closed-minded. And the sad thing is, it's not just the other side, it's one's own side. You know, we're not willing to even talk. When Trump won the election, I was surprised, but I immediately looked for all the books that I could find that related to what the other side might be thinking or experiencing, and that might contribute to my understanding of why this was happening.
Yeah.
And I spoke to a good friend. Oh, you know, I'm reading this and that and the other thing and trying to understand the other side. And she just looked at me and said, why would you want to understand the other side? They're all racists. End of story. And this is an intelligent person whose opinion I normally respect. And she's still my very good friend. But why would I even try to understand another side? Surprised her. People are just absolutely closed. We don't need that. We don't need that in the same country. We certainly do not need that between China and the US. People need to understand why there are different points of view and how can you find a middle ground. I mean, we both sincerely wish people could listen to other people and respect their opinions, or at least understand them.
So you discuss the issue with Ezra a lot? Very often?
Well, I wouldn't say a lot. I mean, you know, we're sitting there at the kitchen table. I'm reading the Boston Globe. He's reading the New York Times. Now I have to read the New York Times myself. And I'll say, oh, did you see this story on blah, blah, blah? Or Trump is doing X, Y, Z. Yeah, I mean, we would discuss them like that. Or something terrible. I mean, I am so glad, it's just going to sound stupid. I'm so glad he didn't see January 6th. It would have broken his heart.
Recently, I always think of Yang Mai. This is a guy who went to Yenching University in the graduate of the late 1940s. He was studying Western economics, a free market economics. In 1949, he knew, oh boy, I will never get ahead. I will fail. So he became an engineer. So from 1949 until the early 1980s, he had no 作用, 没有发挥作用. But in Guangdong at the time of the late 80s, because he knew how markets operated.
Suddenly he's useful now.
Exactly. So suddenly, you know, he would go to a county and the guy in the county say, you know, how do we get enterprise here? So he played a very useful, constructive role. And he was my friend. He was my good friend in Guangdong. And I learned a lot from him. You know, in the whole world, there are so many talented people. Sometimes they have no chance, you know. It's sad, but they never. But sometimes some of those people have a chance later. So when I hear people say engagement didn't work, I say it's crazy. Yeah, history is not ended today. Some of those people who had very good understanding, now they must be very careful. But maybe 10 years later, they could play a very constructive role in development around the world. And now it would need to be organized and to give them more opportunity, more freedom to develop bigger ideas. So I won't give up.